Hello and welcome to this, the first round of the last constructed pool play before we hit our top 8. I'm Tim Willoughby, here with Randy Buehler, and we've got some players absolutely itching to get their constructed on. Let's head down to the feature match area. Hello and welcome to the first round of constructed play here of the final set of constructed pools before our top 8 cut at the end of the day. On the left of our feature match area, we've got Team Belarus. We can see there we've got Pavel Miadvedski, Evgeny Zakharenkov and Nikita Sherbakov. We're going to be starting with Sherbakov. He is playing Abzan Agro and he's up against the Team Guatemala. That's Christopher Verula. We also have Wilfredo Borquez and Jose Andres in the feature match area. They have plenty going on also. We've got Ataka Red versus Abzan Agro here. A fairly classic standard match, Randy Buehler.
Yeah, no, this should be fun. Christopher Verula has most of the Pro Tour experience for Guatemala. He actually finished 17th in Brussels at the Pro Tour earlier this year.
Yeah, we can see there he's got the champion medal for Guatemala, along with the trademark Guatemala team jackets.
Indeed.
These are almost like the sort of the golfing jackets that you get when you get on the Masters. This is what Team Guatemala wears, and these get passed down every year. Yeah,
and you see the scythe leopard on turn 1. This is the landfall version of the Tarka Red.
Yeah, so
forest into scythe leopard.
Yeah, Shambling Vent on turn 1 for Nikita Sherbakov. Sherbakov is on Abzan Agro, so he's not necessarily a deck that does too much on turn 1 apart from an occasional Warden in the first tree, but soon enough he will have all sorts of threats coming along, and already we see Verula here saying, yes, my scythe leopard's a 2-2, and I'm going to make it a 3-3 by sacrificing my wooded foothills, and presumably getting some red mana for himself here so that he's got all of his colours online. There we go with the mountain.
Yeah, Belarus, one of the teams that had success without having a red-green deck. They went Abzan Agro as their wooded foothills deck in Unified Standard.
And actually, both of these teams, it seems to be in this competition that there's a couple of fairly well understood decks and then a third deck that's a bit off the wall. We have Naya Eldrazi Ramp for the Belarusians, and then for Guatemala we have Black-Red Dragons, which we might get a chance to check out a little bit later on, along with a version of Esper that isn't regular Esper Dragons, which could be quite cool.
No, it's control. Face up Den Protector here for Verula.
It's an aggressive start from an aggressive deck. Simply hitting curve what he wants to be doing. 2 Den Protectors in Sherbakov's hand. We'll find out whether or not he wants to play any of his face up. Certainly a desire, I guess, potentially to curve out here for Sherbakov too, because having a creature in play before you play Anafenza the Foremost the following turn does mean that potentially your Anafenza can get that little bit better by throwing around some counters here and there. Face up Den Protectors all round.
Yeah, well, it makes a lot. Sherbakov wants to block, obviously. Verula's trick was on turn 2, he was either just playing an Atarka's Command for a little bit of extra damage or not doing anything, so couldn't really afford to wait on his Den Protector. He just needs another attacker.
And Atarka's Command this turn, though, would mean that that Den Protector wasn't going to be blockable by the opponent's Den Protector, which is kind of cute.
It is certainly an option. Looks like that's the way Verula's going to play it.
There's also a Become Immense in Verula's hand. This, an aggressive deck that's got a very straightforward plan when it comes to Atarka's Command, Become Immense, Teemo Battle Rage, Titan Strength. 4 of each. Let's just be super aggressive. The thing that it doesn't have quite so much of is Burn. In the main deck, this is not a deck that has any kind of reach if it does not have a creature in play. So if Nikita Sherbakov is able to identify that and deal with the creatures that Christopher Verula has going on, he doesn't need to worry about additional damage coming in the form of burn spells.
That said, Den Protector feels like reach a lot of times. The fact that it's unblockable turns a lot of those Giant Growths into just damage the opponent's face cards.
So big swings there from Sherbakov, from Verula, who's just fetching the land with his Cinderglade there with his fetch land so that he can knock Nikita Sherbakov down to just 6 life already. I mean, this is what the landfall red-green decks do, but all it takes is winning the die roll and a little stumble from the opponent, and you can just do crazy amounts of damage. So Sherbakov untapping for his turn 3 on 6 life. And that pressures every single decision you're making for the rest of the game.
Drags a fetch land down to 5.
Oh, they hurt so much more when you're on that sort of a life total. But now does have the 2 basics in play to mean that from now on, any fetch lands at least will be able to find themselves Battle for Zendikar lands that come into play untapped.
It's a tricky spot. I mean, does he want to leave up Abzan Charm? Or does he want to get an Anafenza down? Decides he's got to leave up Abzan Charm, which he was right. There is a Become Immense in Verula's hand, so having that Abzan Charm is kind of important.
Yeah, the unblockability of Den Protector, once it gets a big power, would have been enough that Become Immense could have just closed this game right out.
That said, can Verula apply enough offense here to force Sherbakov's hand before he plays a Become Immense? Swift Spear, Scythe Leopard with a trigger, and there's a fetch land in play. So it's a potential 3-power Scythe Leopard. Although it isn't yet. Yeah, who do you block with Den? Den Protector on Den Protector makes a lot of sense. Now, Verula can say, take 3. He can crack a fetch land. He can play a Become Immense.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's going to play around the Abzan Charm. Doesn't even crack that Bloodstained Mire. Because he doesn't want Side Leopard to be a 3/3. It's pretty smart.
There we have it. Sherbakov down to just 2 life. Now, we've not seen very many Siege Rhinos this weekend, but this is a relatively welcome sight for Nikita Sherbakov here. 3 life, definitely tempting, but
Well,
we know that either of these creatures here from Christopher Verula is going to end up lethal.
Yeah, I mean, Sherbakov has to do something. His Abzan Charm can't save him from that damage because Verula has clearly demonstrated a willingness to not get his creatures up to the point where Abzan Charm can remove them. Now, there will be an unblocked creature to point Become Immense at.
Well, I mean, you know the good thing, Randy Buehler, about us getting a nice quick game 1 in one of our matches? We get that much more magic from the other tables that are going on here. There are 3 matches going on, and we want to try and bring you as much as possible from all 3 of them, because no one match on its own is enough to send one of these countries through. There needs to be 2 match wins for one country. Become Immense there, finishing things off Christopher Verula. He takes game 1 for Guatemala, and we'll get a chance to jump across to one of our other matches and see what's going on there. And I would guess they're on about turn 4-ish, maybe. But before that, of course, we do have our messages. So once we get back, we'll be able to bring you just a little bit more magic.
In The Art of Magic the Gathering Zendikar, you can experience the danger and beauty of Zendikar like never before. This lavishly illustrated hardcover book features the award-winning Art of Magic the Gathering and gives you an insider's look at the secrets of Zendikar, its people, continents, and creatures. Available everywhere January 5th. Friday Night Magic is your local Magic hangout. Find the format right for you among Standard, Modern, Draft, Commander, Legacy, and many more. Check out your local store for details and share your FNM stories by using the hashtag MTGFNM. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
Hello and welcome back to this, our match between top seed in the entire tournament, as yet undefeated here at the World Magic Cup, Belarus, up against Guatemala. We've already seen Guatemala take a game, and Christopher Verula there quickly dispatching Nikita Sherbakov in game 1. But now we get a chance to see Naya Eldrazi ramp in the hand of Pavel Miadvedsky versus Jose Andres with Esper control. So Jason play for Andres there on the right of our screen, and on the left a whole host of creatures, a couple of copies of Rattleclaw Mystic, a Leaf Gilder, and then there's Dragon Lord Ataka currently ruling the skies. 8/8 flying trample, and with Jose Andre on just 12 life, he's going to have to do something pretty fast because he's facing down lethal damage on the next attack. Well, a couple of extra lands coming into play here for Miadzvedsky. There is a Lumbering Falls there. There's one blocker for him. Unfortunately, not able to block the biggest threat that Miedvedski has going on.
At least Summoning Sickness will hold it at bay for a turn.
Few things can hold dragons at play for too long there. We can see counters going up on a majoring network just at the bottom there. So sooner or later, this Esper control deck will have plenty of mana going on. Worth noting, of course, that this is Esper Control and not Esper Dragons. You can see quite a lot of white sources in play. And in some respects, that means that there might be a little bit of hope for Team Guatemala, because Planar Outburst very much a feature in these decks.
2 in the main deck.
So there are ways of winning back this sort of situation. Also get to run the likes of Ojutai's to command to get back your Jaces from the graveyard, gain some life. There's options there. But we would be lying
Multiple Ugins as well.
Yeah, we'd be lying if we said it wasn't in a little bit of a tough shape here for Jose Andres. And there is that planar outburst. Thanks for showing me all of that, Pavel. You're going to have to do something similar again.
And now that the board has been cleared with planar outburst, though, Andres is in quite good shape. Look at that hand.
Yeah, Ojutai's command, he's got a counter spell for the big threats, and that's sometimes the problem that these ramp decks can have. They spend so much time and resources getting lots of mana going that they don't have so many threats, and a counter spell at the right moment can be a real problem.
Yeah, Haven of the Spirit Dragon goes and recycles Dragon Lord Atarka, but Andres is ready for that.
Well, he's got Obnixilis Reignited in his hand, so he can just cast it and use it to kill off the dragon.
Yeah, Andre decided he's not going to stop the dragon from coming into play. He's willing to have Jace lose 5 loyalty. Miedvedski, on the other side, almost out of gas. Down to just that Hangerback Walker.
And Hangerback Walker can be pretty large when you've got the number of lands in play that Miedvedski has, but at the same time, this is a control deck with an awful lot of cards in hand and 2 Planeswalkers in play.
Yeah, Pavel just shrugs as that next list comes down.
I mean, Jose Andres doesn't have so much life that he can afford to be too gung-ho with drawing extra cards with Obnixilis, but an extra 1 or 2 here and there, it may just mean cashing in his Ojutai's command for life rather than some other options at some point in the game.
Mostly this is the point where Pavel taps a bunch of mana for Hangerback Walker, crosses his fingers, and hopes his opponent is out of answers. Please, sir. I have a Hangerback Walker?
You will notice that he's not reaching for a die just yet. Straight in the graveyard it goes.
Scattered
No
to the
Thopter
winds.
tokens. Another Jace the draw there. Jose Andres fetching another land here. Team Guatemala. Not just the jackets, of course, also the hats, which gradually sort of round the top of them do read Guatemala, so that from whichever angle you can tell who they are.
Draw a card. No problem.
And there's another Jace. The card drawing side of things, Jose seems to have a pretty good, strong plan on.
Yeah, he's got a dig through time in his hand, too, whenever he gets time for it or gets pushed into needing a specific answer. He is out of counter spells for creatures, though. This is a bit of a window for Pavel.
I think that there was a creature in the draw there for Miedvedski. We will see soon enough, as this is not really a time where he can afford to hang around and wait for the opportunity to play lots of threats.
All right, here's Whisperwood. Dig is a response. Yeah, it looks like Dig Through Time is a response. Jose would prefer this to either not come into play or at least die before it starts spitting off manifests.
Yeah, the Jace that's in play at some point lets him flashback planar outburst, but this is not exactly a perfect time to do so, really.
There's an utter end in there. Among lots of goodies.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of options. Clash of Wills, not quite the card that he's looking for at this point with the number of lands in play for Miedzvedski, but that's okay because there were a couple of good ones.
Okay. End of turn.
And I guess there is always the option of using Obnixilus to kill off creatures also.
It's not great against Whisperwood.
This is true.
Wow. So he does let the Whisperwood resolve and throw off Manifest. Maybe he is planning that planar outburst. The one Jace can give its life for flashback. The other Jace can flip.
Do the number of cards in the graveyard add up for that?
Well, he doesn't have to flashback he can give flashback to the planar outburst and then cast it after he flips the second Jace. First one even heads to the graveyard to add more.
And here we go. Back-to-back Jace Planeswalkers.
I hear that card's pretty good.
In almost every incarnation. So here comes Planar Outburst. Not casting it with Awaken. This not necessarily a card that you see cast often with Awaken, even in occasions where there's lots and lots of mana available to the control decks. Basically, there's always so many good things to do with your mana when you're playing a control deck in this format that tapping that much to awaken one of your lands, not necessarily a great rate.
And now Jose Andres is completely stacked in his hand once again. He's got Ojutai's Command, he's got Negate, he's got an Ugin, Silumgar's Command. I think at this point he's now firmly in control.
Absolutely, yeah. He's already got 2 Planeswalkers working with him. He's going to have another one going on. I think he might have been reading the plot line of Oath of the Gatewatch about all of the Planeswalkers working together against the Eldrazi ramps situation.
Funny.
Watching some of the previews over lunch. Yeah, map the wastes, meaning that there's a little bit more land in play for Miedzvedski, and I guess a little bit less land left in his deck. But right now, even though he leads 20 life to 2, do not be fooled. This game is not as one-sided as the life totals would suggest.
I was just like, no problem. I'll go down to 1. Time to draw another card.
Trying to draw another Planeswalker.
Narset. Ha! More Planeswalkers join the team. We are in storyline mode here. Needs a way to draw cards that doesn't cost life now that he's down to 1, see?
And that's fair enough.
He is sitting on Ojutai's Command. He's going to be tempted to gain 4 life.
And between Ojutai's Command and Silumgar's Command, it would be fair to say he's in a commanding position.
You said it, not me.
I'll take the hit on that one, the feedback in the Twitch chat. I'm guessing C-, but maybe I'm an optimist. More map the wastes here for Pavel Miedzvedski.
Belarus hasn't lost yet, but we've watched Guatemala take a couple game 1s from him here. Belarus has definitely got their work cut out for them if they're going to keep that streak alive.
And the cool thing about pool play is that if we were talking about a regular Swiss tournament and at this stage you were without losses, you might start reaching a point where you thought, okay, we can just start IDing, we can maybe concede to friends and so on. Because of pool play, it doesn't matter how good your record has been, these 3 rounds, if you lose them all, you're out. Does not matter. As it is for Belarus, because they have come in as the absolute top seed in their pool, then they are able to suck up maybe one more loss than some other teams.
Tiebreakers, they're going to win any tie. So if they get into a you know, a three-way tie at 1 and 2, they could still sneak in based on their previous results. But you're right. They've got to earn it. Probably need to win two of these three.
Being able to rebound Ojutai's command and gain 8 life and draw 2 cards seems kind of exciting. So many options with all of these Planeswalkers, and loyalty's ticking up. Could we be seeing a multiple ultimate? Don't try and say that one too fast.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, Jose is obliged to win the game, I guess. Pavel might just scoop him up.
Yeah, at what point does it count as kind of playing with your food a little bit?
I mean, one of the victory conditions of these Esper control decks is to bore the opponent to death.
I am anything but bored right now with some of the possibilities going on with all of these Planeswalkers. While we're fairly used to seeing Jace in play, we don't necessarily get to see so much from Narset or indeed Obnixilis in Standard.
And Ugin just watches from Jose's hand. If he plays the Ugin, the game might end.
Oh, we may be seeing an attack here. That would gain some more life to draw some more cards. That makes sense.
As long as it's not about the damage.
Incidental damage. Now, in terms of things that Miedvedski might be able to draw here to make things kind of interesting, let's have a little look at what he's got going on. I mean, one would have to think that one card on its own might not be enough, but Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger is a feature in his deck.
Yep.
Just casting it will exile permanents, and there are some pretty juicy permanents to exile at this point. Any amount of counter magic's not going to change that. You cannot exile a Narset Emblem, though, and that is something that's just come into play. Non-creature spells are no longer an option for Pavel Miedvedski. Conveniently, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger is a creature. A real big creature.
Yeah, those 3 Ulamogs are basically the only relevant cards left in Pavel's deck. And even then, like, so you get to remove 2 permanents with your Ulamog. Which Planeswalkers would you like? You can't have all of them.
Ugin ticking up. Not a great deal of incentive to tick down right now. And it doesn't take very long for Ugin to reach ultimate stage. Though I'm not quite sure what other permanents Jose Andres could ever want, even for Christmas.
Jetty Offshoot.
Well, that's a creature, and it gained him a life.
Yeah, Pavel actually drew Ugin that turn, but Narset Emblem locking that one out.
All right, we're at 11 loyalty for Ugin. We've already had 1 ultimate. How many are we going to get? What's the largest number of ultimates you've ever seen in one game, Randy?
I mean, a couple.
I guess that technically if you count things like Gideon emblems, I might have seen 3. But we have the potential for 4 here. We have an update from our third table. So Christopher Verula has been able to win his match, not just game 1. So Guatemala now has a firm lead in this match against current top seed Belarus, and a second emblem's in play. That's ultimate number 2. So now we have a new win condition for Jose Andres. Yes, he can technically deal damage. He can also deck Pavel Miedvedski, who, let's remember, can no longer play any spells apart from creatures.
He's seen enough. I don't want more of these ultimates going off.
I would quite happily have seen at least 1 more ultimate. I'm just going to throw that one out there. But that is game 1 for Jose Andres for Guatemala. Guatemala currently on the board with every game win that there has been so far in this match, as far as we can tell. So we're going to get a chance to see our third match that's going on. It's working out a little bit slower than the other ones, but there's a lot of dragons, at least in potential, in here. Evgeny Zakharenkov on the left of our screen for Belarus. He is playing Esper Dragons. On the right-hand side of our screen, this is red-black dragons in the hand of Wilfredo Bojoquez.
I'm guessing by the fact that this is still game 1 that that's good for Esper Dragons?
I would imagine so, but and both these decks, in their own way, kind of control decks. It's just that the red-black deck controlling the board, the blue-black deck controlling more from its hand, I suppose. Different branch of dragons completely, though. In terms of finishing power, the red-black dragon deck does have the option of the likes of Kolaghan the Storm's Fury and Thunderbreak Regent. And then it can also power out quite a lot of tokens between Hangerback Walker and Pia and Kiran Nala. Thunderbreak Regent, the card that you see coming into play there, facing down Dragonlord Ojutai and that there, Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Beautiful unglued swamps there for Evgeny Zakharenkov. All dragons all the time. Dragonlord Silmgar says, I want you to be one of my dragons. And yes, it's become the target of a spell or ability, so Zakharenkov will take a little bit of damage now. But it does make a slightly awkward position now for Bojoquez, because there's 3 dragons in play for Zakharenkov, and now targeting any of them is going to cost him 3 life. Dragonlord Silmgar doing some good work there.
Bojoquez is hellbent, empty-handed, just drawing off the top now.
Draws a Read the Bones.
All right, that's one way to try to get back into it.
Utter end the draw there off Jace Vryn's Prodigy. We can't quite see how big the graveyard is, so we don't know how close Jace is to flipping.
I think Evgeny was digging for permission.
Well, we may already have had some by the looks of things.
Yeah.
So while the life total's currently in favor of Bojoquez, that not likely to last for all too long.
Just because there's 3 dragons ready to attack him, and he's defending himself with a lone Thopter token?
That'll be it, yeah. Draws another dragon there with Jace. Admittedly a legendary one, so it's not likely to come into play just yet. We'll get a chance to see the graveyard. We'll find out quite how close Jace is to flipping here. You can see there Nikita Sherbakov just looking on. He does, of course, as a teammate, have the option of giving a little bit of advice here and there. As it is, though, it looks like Zakharenkov knows what he's doing.
Yeah, does flip the Jace, discarding the redundant Dragonlord Ojutai.
And much as we saw in the last game, where there's maybe some dicey moments early on, but later on these control decks just kind of feel like they can't ever lose. Zakharenkov in a pretty dominant position here, hoping to see a lot of attacks.
He's going to use the other end just to get the Thopter token out of the way.
And it does change the
game
clock.
along.
Yeah, this way around is a clear, neat 2-turn clock.
Yeah, he's got it next turn.
Even if there's a removal spell for Dragonlord Silumgar, which would be kind of the best case scenario for Bojoquez, he's going to be taking 3 just to do that, and there's every possibility that then any removal from Zakharenkov would still make it lethal.
I think he's got the scatter in his hand anyway, for whatever would come off the top of the deck.
So Zakharenkov picks up the game there, so that one will be going to a game 2, which we'll be able to potentially see some of a little bit, but we're going to get a chance to jump back potentially and see a little bit more of Esper control against Eldrazi Ramp. And let's talk a little bit about the early turns of what happens with Eldrazi Ramp, because to be honest, in some respects, those are the exciting bits for me, as it's sort of gradually able to sneak ahead of what the control decks are trying to do.
Yeah, and this particular Eldrazi deck, it's got a lot of dragons in it too. Dragonlord Dramoka, Dragonlord Atarka. It explodes not just to Eldrazi, but all kinds of fun stuff. Leaf Gilder helps with the acceleration. Rattleclaw Mystic helps with the acceleration. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to ramp up and a lot of things to ramp into.
And in terms of the control matchup, it really does seem like they've thought about that pretty hard, because Dragonlord Dromoka in the sideboard and in the main, and a Gaia's Revenge in the sideboard as well. That one,
It's a great point.
it could put a real hurt on if it's something that is not expected by Jose Andres on the other side.
I wonder if they're able to get time for Dromoka to kick in the Atarka Red matchup, too. I mean, you think about this metagame, right? If you're playing Eldrazi, you know that the reason most people shied away from Eldrazi is there's all this Atarka Red out there, there's all this control out there. And I think by going to Naya with their Eldrazi deck, they've gotten some tools. They've got, okay, Winds of Kalsisma in the sideboard, of course, all the Jaddi offshoots, but Radiant Flames, Dragonlord Dromoka, they've got some spice, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know that Naya is necessarily the go-to color scheme for Eldrazi ramp, but it seems to be working here.
Exactly.
This is, let's not forget, not a losing team so far this weekend.
Indeed.
And a keep and a scry here after a mulligan for the Naya ramp deck of Pavel Miadzvedsky. Early doors there, we see Leaf Gilder. Not necessarily the play this turn on turn 2. We've got Hangerback Walker instead. Hangerback Walker, a great kind of catch-all for almost any turn in the game for Naya Eldrazi ramp. It can cast it on turn 2 and just have something on the board that can gradually grow, present a little bit of a threat here and there. But if you draw it on turn 10 when you've got 14 lands in play, it's a colossal threat too. Just a basic island, the first fetch. I mean, getting a few basics in play doesn't then mean that future fetch lands become all the more powerful, because they can fetch the Battle for Zendikar lands untapped. And here's our first ramp spell of the game. Successfully resolves, so get a couple of forests here. And this is Pilgrimage. Of course, if you can get to Spell Mastery a little bit stronger, but you've got to play something first, and it's not so shabby as your first spell of the game.
That Ulamog does look awfully expensive, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the idea when it got made, that it was always meant to look expensive. The good thing is, this is a deck that can achieve that. There's already another forest in hand. They've got the Hedron Archive going on. It's not as far off as it seems like it should be.
It's true.
And the fact that it's a cast trigger to exile 2 permanents, very important, means that even if everything's going right for the control deck, it's still going to lose 2 permanents. That's the best case scenario. Which, if you're going to spend 10 mana, you want to get something for it, right? How do we feel about Jose Andres' hand here? He's got Anticipate, Scatter the Winds, Dig Through Time, and lots of lands. Is that where you want to be for a control deck in this spot?
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I want to play lands. I want to build up my mana base, and I want to make sure that I don't get run over by anything in particular. This Hedron Archive is kind of interesting. Like, do you use your Scatter to the Winds to stop a Hedron Archive? It's an Eldrazi ramp deck. Ramp is very important to them, and Jose Andres says, yes, I am going to use my only counterspell to stop that Hedron Archive.
I mean, I guess that realistically, he knows that some of the cards that he might want to stop, I mean, we don't know whether or not, for example, he'd seen Dragonlord Dromoka in Game 1. If he did, then he might know that the acceleration would put it into something that he was going to have trouble with anyway. The amount of extra reach that you get, the amount of extra mana that you get from a Hedron Archive, enough to make it a reasonable counter, I think. Yeah. Absolutely backbreaking against control. Can't be countered. And then your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, which means that in turn, other things that you're casting, because this deck operates largely at sorcery speed, are not going to get countered. Also beats people up real good.
Yeah, I have to imagine that's part of the reason Belarus is sitting at undefeated. This Dromoka tech seems like a good call for this meta.
Explosive net vegetation met by negate.
Wow, Jose Andres just continues stopping the ramp. I like it. Oh, geez. That was the last card he needed to dig through time as well?
Everything's coming up Andres, it would seem.
Yeah, let's count. Pavel's check. Yeah, that was 6. All right. I guess that was 6.
Disconsolate looking Nikita Sherbakov in the background for the Belarusian team. Just watching on, he's already lost his match in relatively quick fashion against Christopher Verula, and kind of hoping that even though his team probably does have a loss to give in this constructed pool, didn't want to be giving up in the first round of this constructed. Just puts a little bit more pressure on for the next couple. Silmgar's command now in hand for Andres, so can't counter everything, but it can do a fair amount of work. And Duress revealing just a land and Ulamog, nothing to hit there, but the information's still important.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Information is definitely nice.
Yeah, Miedzvedsky, his play is kind of mapped out at this point, with the possible exception of what to do with his Hangerback Walker, but Hangerback Walker at 3 power can probably be chipping in a little bit here, I would imagine.
Wow, is he going to counter map the wastes? You know, Ulamog is looming.
Bolster is a thing. I mean, this is a stark change from the way that ramp matchups used to work against control. Historically, the ramp spells functionally didn't really do a whole lot against control, so you just said, well, you've not got very many threats, and I've got some counter magic.
Right.
Lo and behold, job done. The big threats now, I think R&D have done a really good job of finding threats that you don't just feel like your world is crumbling every single time you play against a control player, which I think makes the matchup a lot more interesting. So map the race resolves. Bolster does put an extra counter on Hangerback Walker. It attacks for 4. Jose Andres going down to 12 here on this attack. And Majoring Network gets its first counter. So Jose, not really a ramp deck in quite the same school as what's going on the other side of the board, but he is gradually improving his mana situation. And any control deck certainly likes to have more mana available rather than less. And there's plenty of colorless uses of mana in this format for Esper control.
Yeah, we are up over 7 mana. Those Shrine of the Forsaken Gods tap for 2 each toward Ulamog, so map the waste got us there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, just a big, big boon to these decks. And we get a chance to see the Guatemala team. They pick up Ulamog, they have a good old look. Is he hungry? Yep.
And Sanctum of Ugin is going to trigger here as well.
So that of course means that just because this Ulamog has been dealt with does not mean to say that there will not be future Ulamog issues for Jose Andres. Hey look, I brought a friend. We had the same costume.
Yeah, I mean, this is how Eldrazi can, in fact, beat control, even once the game gets late. The string of Ulamogs is the key. Those lands were exiled. Oh, by the way, Hangerback is attacking.
Yeah, and those Hangerback attacks just big enough that even just Hangerback Walker on its own is something that Jose Andres needs to worry about now. The bolster from Map the Wastes shaving a turn off the clock, I think.
Now, can Pavel Miedzvedsky draw land off the top? That's what he wants.
Absolutely, because it was pretty tight on mana to be able to cast that first Ulamog.
Yeah, and he had to sacrifice the Sanctum of Ugin, so he's down to 9 mana now. And if he could pick the land he's going to draw, how about another Sanctum of Ugin?
I wouldn't say no. Jose Andres casts his Dragonlord Ojutai. That will at least be able to block this Hangerback Walker. Did not look like a land pickup here for Pavel Medvedsky.
No, is that rending volley? I think it's rending volley. 4-4 hanger back can just attack into Ojitai, though.
Absolutely.
Oh, Nissa. There's the 10th land, or 10th mana for next turn.
It's not just the Esper control deck that gets to do some fun things with Planeswalkers. Nissa Vastwood Seer. When she comes into play, you do get to forest. The exciting bit, of course, is when you play your 7th land and then you get Nissa Sage Animist. Our graphic flipping just as Matsvedsky's Nissa does, and plenty of abilities there. All of them fairly relevant when it comes to this ramp deck. Getting to reveal the top card and put lands into play, other cards into your hand, make 4/4 elementals, and then occasionally do entirely unreasonable things when you get to 7 loyalty. There we see coach Fernando Jose Juarez Oliva helping out Jose Andres here.
Ashaya was the choice with Nissa, of course. A pair of lethal creatures. Match has been kind of interesting to watch. We've gotten to see both decks do their thing.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to me that sort of the variations in the Naya Eldrazi ramp deck have meant that this is a more competitive match than you might necessarily have seen just from a different formulation of the exact same ramp deck.
That said, I mean, this game has just been the normal part, just the green Eldrazi. It could have been mono green for all that we've seen this game. I mean, essentially, it was Ulamog. The opening hand off a mulligan was Ulamog with not, you know, an Ulamog that we could eventually get to. And then, despite the fact that Jose Andres countered a Hedron Archive, countered, I believe it was in Nissa's Pilgrimage. I mean, he countered multiple ramp spells, and
I think he counted 3 ramp spells in total.
Pavel just kept drawing mana. And yeah, there's nothing Jose Andres can do about it. We're going to game 3.
Exciting stuff. And of course, this is not the only match that's going on now in this series between Belarus and Guatemala. We are going to get a chance to potentially see a little bit about what's going on between Evgeny Zakharenkov and Wilfredo Bajojes over on our table B match. That a match between, well, a whole lot of dragons. Esper dragons on the left of our screen for Zakharenkov, and on the right of our screen for Bajojes, we have black-red dragons. The big dragons to look out for there, Thunderbreak Regent and Kolaghan, the Storm's Fury. Well, an empty board would normally signify things going well for the Esper deck. You can see Kolaghan there. You know, it's possible she's been jumping in and out of play and doing all sorts of trouble. But for now, there's one dragon on the board, that dragon being Dragonlord Ojitai under the control of Evgeny Zakharenkov. Looking at Foul Tongue Invitation, though, an option open to both of these decks as a good way of dealing with opposing dragons. And it looks like Bajojes does not have a dragon to reveal to his Foul Tongue Invocation. Not that it mattered in the end, because there was some counter magic from Evgeny. Another interesting flying option coming from Wilfredo. This one that I believe it's just a one-off from the sideboard. Looks like we might have an Ash Cloud Phoenix in play here. There we have it. When it dies, if it's you get to return it to play as a morph. You get to flip it back up again. And conveniently, with 4 power, kind of the right size to tussle with a Dragonlord Ojitai.
Indeed.
We get to find out what Zakharenkov's feelings on this are soon enough. Activating fetch lands.
Is there Utter Hen sitting in Evgeny's hand? It's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, someone has been sent away to the farm and they will not be coming back. Off into exile, no coming back from that.
And Evgeny looking like he's in pretty good shape to send this over to game 3 of Eldrazi Ramp versus Esper. Guatemala up a match, but Belarus up a game here.
It would, of course, be huge for Belarusian Magic if they were able to continue their winning ways for the rest of this weekend. We've seen that so many times, sort of, these events are a great opportunity for some of the countries that are less well known for Magic to really thrust themselves into the forefront. And if nothing else, lots of Pro Tour qualifications for the team.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. This is a very live route to the Pro Tour. I mean, you look at the Belarusian team, they've played one Pro Tour between the 4 of them.
Absolutely. We just saw Transgress the Mind there, stopped by Scatter to the Winds. Evgeny Zakharenkov valuing his hand enough to send one of his counterspells away just so that there's not more information given away or potentially an even better card. But with Bahorhez still with cards in hand, mana untapped, it'll be interesting to see at what point Evgeny Zakharenkov says it's time to start attacking.
Yeah, I mean, with a backup Ojutai in his hand, turn it sideways. Yeah.
All right, the first hit successful, and that means they're free anticipate. Look at the top 3, 1 in the hand, 2 on the bottom. The good thing about Dragon Lord Ojutai attacking, one of the many good things about Dragon Lord Ojutai attacking, doesn't take too long for you to kill off your opponent, and once you've got away with the first hit, it's pretty safe to assume that you're going to get away with a few more. As soon as it reaches the point where Ojutai untaps, you're like, okay, fine. If they had an answer, it would have been a good idea for them to play it. Here's Pio and Nalado. We'll see whether or not that one resolves. If it does, there'll be 2 Thopt tokens with which to block the dragon.
Yeah, I think Evgeny's going to dig his response. So I'm going to tap 1 extra mana, deal 5.
So leaving up enough mana here to cast pretty much any of the responses in his deck he could possibly hope for.
Mm-hmm.
If needed, potentially even a big Clash of Wills. So a little bit of thought here. We can see most of the Belarusian team looking on as dig through time is selected. Little bits of advice here and there, both on what cards to take and what order to put the cards on the bottom. Potentially relevant.
Looks like he did find Scatter to the Winds. Not interested in seeing Chandra's Parents come into play.
And that, of course, means that the board very much clear for more attacks from a certain Dragon Lord. And Foul Tongue Invocation to pick up from the attack trigger, or from the attack damage trigger, should I say. Jorge's currently with just a mountain in hand. Does not look like that draw really helped him too much. I believe it was another land there. Double mountain. It can be tough to win without them, but in this case it's going to be tough to win with them. Dragon Lord's prerogative. If you're looking for the rub-ins, you found them. Evgeny It may well be that the bit of his turn that takes the longest here is working out which cards to keep in hand at the end of turn. The rest of it's all pretty perfunctory at this point. And of course, even a win here for Evgeny Zakharenkov is not yet enough for Team Belarus and all the Belarusians at home to start celebrating. Still one more match for them to win if they're going to get through this series. Looks like another dig through time here.
No, Tassiger.
Ah, of course, yeah. An impressive grip of cards in hand here. We'll get the exact cards in hand updated once there's been some discarding going on.
Is he up to 9? Does he have to discard twice?
And as it is, Tassiger means that even those cards discarded might come back at some point. that, of course, and the Haven of the Spirit Dragon in play.
Yeah, that'll do.
We've seen enough, says Wilfredo Bajojes. Let's go and watch the last match and see how our control deck does against your big aggro deck. Now, it is a very big aggro deck, the biggest, many would say.
One last game. We've been holding it, so we're going to get to watch it from the beginning.
Absolutely, we will. On the left of our screen, we have, with Naya Eldrazi ramp, Pavel Miadzvedsky. He is up against Jose Andres in the decider here. And immediately a duress means that we get to know what's going on. We have 2 ramp spells. In addition, we have a whole bunch of lands and that card that you see on the screen there, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. You can't take that, but we learned last game that Jose Andres does not mind dealing with ramp anyway. Explosive vegetation goes away. There's only 5 minutes total in which to play this game. So they're going to have to get a wiggle on if they want to get through this. Leaf Gilder on turn 2 from Pavel Miedzvedsky.
Pretty good top deck.
And there's Jace. Foil Jace at that. No basic lands yet for Jose Andres, so all of his Battle for Zendikar lands coming into play tapped. 4 mana means Hedron Archive.
Yeah, Leaf Gilder accelerated into that nicely.
Turn 2, 2 mana. Turn 3, 4 mana. Turn 4, 6, 7 mana. I like where this is going.
There's a Rattleclaw Mystic in Pavel's hand now, too.
This could be brutal. Just measuring network there for...
Oh, is it Dragonlord Dramoka off the top?
It is.
Jeez. Do you play Rattleclaw Mystic to try to get to Ulamog right away, or do you just Windmill Slam Dromoka? Can even sneak in an attack with Leaf Gilder if we're going to play Dromoka.
Certainly interesting. I guess it all rather depends on how he feels about the amount of removal that there is going on from Jose Andres' hand. Well, there is an attack there. That not necessarily signaling too much immediately, but there is Dragonlord Dramoka. Can't be countered. Flying, lifelink. Your opponents can't play spells during your turn. So, basically, as long as Dragonlord Dramoka is in play, we are not going to be seeing counter magic. And there's a fetch line for Jose Andres, goes to 17 on that. If he wants it untapped, it's going to have to be a basic.
Wow, that was an Ojutai's command in Andre's hand, too. This Dromoka line's working out great. There's no answer to the Dragon Lord.
Yeah, and it certainly was a risk. I think that had there been...
Planar Outburst, say?
Yes, it could have
Hit
felt...
the Leaf Gilder and the Dragon?
Could have felt a little unfortunate there, but so far, Pavel Miadzvedsky is dodging bullets. Still a potential Jace activation. Was that an utter end off the top? Possibly Narset, actually.
Narset
Transcendent. She has many skills, How does she tussle with Dromoka? She does not have an ability that's likely to cause too much trouble for Dragon Lord Dromoka just yet. Though, I guess that with that Ojutai's command, there's the potential next turn to gain 8 life, draw a couple of cards, and find an answer.
Well, Pavel's got to decide whether he cares about Narset. Like, he could just ignore her and attack Jose. Or he could devote some time to killing off the Narset.
I mean, that's interesting.
He drew Whisperwood.
It's funny, he had a very straightforward game plan at the start of this game. He had Ulamog, he had Ramp. And gradually, as the turns have gone on, he's been given more forks in the road.
Yeah, I like this. You can actually kill Narset with, that's exactly 7 power. I think it makes sense to take the turn off to kill her.
It's not even really taking the turn off too much in terms of how you might have spent your mana otherwise.
Face up, Rattleclaw, and Whisperwood. Wow.
So 1 card left in Pavel Miadvedsky's hand, and Jose Andres knows exactly what that 1 card is in Ulamog. The only bit of hidden information for him is what that manifest token is.
The Whisperwood, though, is pretty nice protection against any kind of sweeper.
Which in turn means that Dromoka is pretty safe from much of what Jose Andres might do, which in turn means that counter magic is not too much of a worry.
Oh, we're apparently on turn 0 now. They are out of time.
That is really bad news for Guatemala. I struggle to see how the Esper control deck is going to be able to win in these turns.
No, the question is, can they get a draw out of it? I mean, they're better off with a draw than a loss.
Absolutely. And for all of the other teams in their pool, this definitely makes life confusing if it wasn't confusing enough in terms of where everybody stands with tiebreakers and with the round-robin play. But Pavel Miadzvedsky, he has presented a lot of power. There's definitely potential for him to be able to find 17 points of damage in the 3 turns of attacking that he's going to have.
Right, yeah, if this is turn 0, that means Pavel gets 3 attacks. Shrinks the dragon.
That 1 die there, showing you with the turn count on the bottom of the screen.
We're at, what, 9 mana now?
Yes.
And I didn't see what he drew.
That was a Hedron Archive.
Hedron Archive. So, can play Ulamog next turn.
Which will be just in time for 1 attack. We are not going to see Ulamog eat an entire library, but we may well see Ulamog do some pretty nifty things anyway.
Shrinking, the fact that Dragon Lord Dromoka has been jaced means it can't really attack into Ojutai. 3 power can be blocked pretty effectively.
How much of the rest of the board can attack here?
I mean, the Whisperwood could attack and be willing to trade, but then you lost your Whisperwood. I mean, I guess you can attack with Dromoka and 3 2-power creatures. You're kind of willing to lose 1. Or bounce with Dromoka. Deal 6.
And the actual hot ticket here is going to be if you can manifest something exciting.
I don't think you want to offer a trade of Whisperwood for Ojutai. Oh, wow, cashing in the archive. 2 cards.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that casting Ulamog next turn, not good enough.
Yeah, he found a land. He found this. That's the Sanctum, right?
Yes.
So yeah, here's the attack with the 3, with everything except the Whisperwood. Does not want to offer up the Whisperwood. Wants to get a manifest. Wants to have the defense against Planar Outburst. Ojutai can either pick off a mana creature or save 1 extra point from the Dragon Lord. I think you pick off a mana creature. So 7 damage, dropping Jose Andres to 10.
Close games. And it's funny because even though this round has gone to time, it really doesn't feel like I felt like we had action the whole way through.
Yeah, some of this game ones got kind of long.
I guess so.
We watched 2 game ones finish before we got here.
This is true. And it's a Gaia's Revenge face down. That a big creature to have tucked away in the pocket. Extra things for Jose Andres to think about at some point are what could those face down creatures be? Gaia's Revenge, a big problematic creature to let through when you're on 10 life.
This turn, last one.
And does Andres still have Ojutai's Command for Life in his hand?
Yes.
Which may end up being a big swing in terms of what Miadzvedski has planned here.
I found a Monastery Mentor, too. I mean, this game sure looks like it is Pavel Miedzvedski's. It's just the fact that we're in extra turns here, right? That game 1 lasted forever. Like, Pavel was kind of watching all those Planeswalkers. Remember, it was the ultimate and then the other ultimate.
Yeah.
It could be that Pavel's going to regret not scooping that game a little earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at that point we all knew that the writing was on the wall, and as much as I sort of jokingly booed when he did scoop them up, he may well should have done so a turn or 2 sooner. Once he was playing Hellbent and there was a couple of active Planeswalkers.
I mean, the chain of Ulamogs is the reason why Eldrazi can actually hypothetically recover from a situation like that. If you do get Ulamog into Ulamog and those cast triggers. There's a pair of Monastery Mentors in here. Is that what I'm seeing? In this dig? Are those in from the sideboard?
I mean, given the amount of time left on the round, I can certainly see bringing in the Mentors just because you know that you need to win in a shorter space of time. Even if they're not naturally something that you would move toward in this matchup. We see here the whole team getting involved for Guatemala, just trying to figure out, I mean, during that dig, they were all kind of chipping in little thoughts about
yeah, well, they found Planar Outburst.
The first Planar Outburst, though, with Whisperwood Elemental in play is basically remove target Whisperwood Elemental. Also Dragonlord Edge, so. So a bunch of creatures going away. We now have a bunch of manifests. And oh, look, that was, in fact, Gaia's Revenge manifested there. I suppose, yeah, they're
still a pretty effective Planar Outburst.
Yeah.
What are we at Ulamog? Not without the mana creature. Oh, but there's the Forsaken Gods. That's now 10, right?
It certainly looks a bit that way. We do not know what those manifests are, but there's the potential they could be something a little scary.
We do.
Oh, okay, well, there's a little extra mana there. Rattleclaw Mystic, both a morph and a manifest, though at least in terms of what Jose Andres is aware of, just a manifested creature. This turn 3 of 5, so there'll be one more turn attacking after this for Pavel Miadzvedski. Double and triple checking his count on mana. Oh, Ojutai's Command could really throw the numbers off here. Make a surprise block again for life.
All right. Well, here's Ulamog. And this is going to trigger Sanctum of Ugin. Presumably you want the Jace. Doesn't look like you can quite color screw him. I see, you know, plenty of white mana, plenty of blue mana, 2 black mana.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take the Jace just because there's a planar outburst in the graveyard. So
Right.
that bit's easy. And yeah, at that point, yeah, there's...
Yeah, take one of the 2 black mana. And trigger the Sanctum, of course.
Yeah. It may be, though, that Ojutai's command is just enough.
That's crazy.
So he's, now that there's a Jace in the graveyard... Oh, so the Jace gets exiled.
Jace gets exiled.
Does he have any creatures left in his graveyard that he can get back with Ojutai's command for a blocker in addition to the 5 life?
No.
In which case, it may be that Pavel Miedzvedski is just found enough.
Yeah, I mean, Ulamog, indestructible, but it's not like it tramples or anything.
It's hungry, but not that disruptive.
Oh, Monastery Mentor. Monastery Mentor can block it. How many? Can he throw off enough monks? Like, Monastery Mentor is going to get exiled by the new Ulamog.
But if you cast new Ulamog, then I guess you can let that one die to the legend rule, so that the old one can still attack. Yeah.
Yes. How much does Pavel have enough land? 1, 2.
Not anymore.
No, he played a land for the turn, I'm pretty sure. So I think he does have enough. He does have enough land. So here's a Jace. Which, yeah, this is turn 4. This is Jose Andres is just playing to try to draw. He's left up Ojutai's command. I don't think it's good enough, though. Oh, yeah. No? Yeah, I think you play Ulamog, you exile the Jace. It can't come back with Ojutai's command. And that clears the path for those last the last attack for 7. There's 10 mana, not counting the Rattleclaw.
Both teams effectively talking through the exact same set of lines because both teams know about the Ulamog. Both teams sort of... The only bit of information that is not public to everyone watching at home and everybody sat at the table is the Ojutai's command in hand, which Belarus doesn't know about.
Yeah, well, here's Ulamog number 2. Casting it will trigger the ability to exile 2 permanents. Jace and a land, says Pavel Miedzvedski. And now, which of your 2 legends would you like to keep? Jose floats mana. I think I'll keep the one that doesn't have Summoning Sickness. Go to attacks. Got this floating mana. Oh, there's the fist pump. And the high fives. Belarus still hasn't lost.
I mean, that was going to be true no matter how that turn worked out, but much, much happier to pick up the win at the end of that epic round there. That, I believe, was pretty much the last match in the feature match area this round, but it was a belter. My goodness.
That was great. And now Belarus has a pair of win-and-ins. 2-1 is definitely good enough to advance them to the top 8. So they have a pair of win-and-ins, and they have a small chance that they could back in at 1-2.
Must be nice to be Belarus, eh? But
it is nice to be Belarus right now. That's absolutely true.
They're going to take a quick breather. We're going to take a very quick breather because I imagine we'll be back to the feature match area soon enough. But for now, we're going to head over to the news desk.
Yes, I've been waiting to use the word Herculean for a while here. And that'll do nicely. Herculean in the booth, Herculean down on the floor. That was an extraordinary hour plus of Magic. Of course, it was the last match of the round, which means before you know it, we'll be back there again for more great World Magic Cup action. Why don't we take a look then at how the 4 pools stand? Because I know you all want to know what happened in the other results elsewhere. So here's Pool D. We have Italy at the top. They, of course, played the number 2 seed, which is Scotland. Greece played the Philippines. Your winners, Italy and Greece. So for Italy, they now, just like Randy said, for Belarus, they have a pair of win-and-ins to make it in. Scotland had that loss to give, but now if they want to keep the destiny in their own hands, they must win twice. They could still back in at 1 and 2. Greece, great start for them. Philippines, destiny no longer in their hands. Even if they get to 2 and 1, it could be 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. They'd be a bottom 2-1, if you like, being the bottom seed in the group. So now Philippines just have to win and hope. Let's take you back a pool. Let's go to Pool C and see what's going on here. This is the group of death, if you like. France came in as the #1 seed. They have defeated New Zealand, and Japan, who arrived as the bottom seed, they were 14 overall. They've beaten Latvia. Now we know that France will play Japan in the last round, which would be an amazing clash of some tremendous players. But it's possible that by then, France will have beaten Latvia, Japan will have beaten New Zealand, and this one could all be over. Japan and France could already be in the top 8 by the time they meet, or they could be on collision course. Work to do for New Zealand and Latvia in Pool C. Back we go again. Pool B is up next. Let's take a look at that. And you had Austria coming in as the top seed, and they have done the business. They have beaten Ukraine. Ukraine, who've been really setting the pace throughout the weekend, being tremendous. Thailand have defeated Serbia. So right now, Austria have 2 win-and-ins left. First of all, they play Serbia. If they don't win that, they're still in for certain if they then go on to beat Thailand. Serbia in trouble as one of the bottom 2 seeds with a loss. Thailand, well, if they just keep winning, then they're in. But they would need to win twice more to be sure. And finally, Pool A. Well, this is what you've just seen, that incredible match of Belarus against Guatemala. Belarus at the last possible moment getting the win that guarantees them 2 win-and-ins. Guatemala, they've had a loss, but that doesn't matter. If they win the next 2, they're in anyway. Denmark beat Paraguay, so the defending champions, they've put themselves in decent shape. Next up for them, they will play Belarus, who've just come off that win. And what about Guatemala, though? They've only got a couple of moments to turn themselves around after that incredibly heartbreaking loss. And they just have to remind themselves, we're a top 2 seed. If we win our next 2, we're in business. But Guatemala against Denmark, that is starting to look like a really, really tasty match for possibly the top 8 at the end of things. All right, so that's where things stand. We've got 2 more rounds to come. All the 1s play the 3s, all the 2s play the 4s in our middle round of pool play. Then we'll know what everyone has to do to make the top 8. But Greece have done their bit. They got in just as they did last year as a #4 seed. Then they kept the dream alive, got into the top 16, and they've opened up with a win here in the second phase of pool play. So who are these Greek players who just keep on winning at the World Magic Cup? Let's find out in the company of Brian David Marshall.
I'm here with Greek national champion Bill Chronopoulos. Bill, you guys went as far as 2nd place last year. You returned this year, and you find yourself in a familiar situation as far as pool play.
Exactly. We will return this year with only one goal, to place higher than the last year, as Team Greece does every year. Every year from the new WMCQ, Team Greece places higher. So there is only one place for us this year, and that's the first place, and we're here for it.
I mean, you had to have felt last year like you guys were about to win. The Dune Blast was such a backbreaking moment. How many of those have you torn up over the last year?
A lot, especially foil ones. I love tearing them. But okay, it happens. The possibilities were really, really, really low, but still, there was one in 2000, I don't know. Anyway.
But you guys came into day 2 again with a low seed in pool play. What is it about the Greek team where you guys have been able to come back? You were in a 32nd seed last year, 29th seed this year, but you advanced to top 16. What is it about this the Greek team that has let you guys fight back so hard?
It's about the team spirit we have, and also the quality of the players. We have a very good team this year, like last year. A new player and 3 very experienced ones. So that's what helped us last year and this year as well to do well.
Tell us about your teammates, because 2 of the players have played in the World Magic Cup before, but not on the same team with you.
No, they are experienced players. They are from Greece. They are considered 2 of the best in Greece, and I was very happy to have them in my team. The third one is a rookie, but he has a very good talent, and we hope he will do well. And so far, he's doing well.
So you were talking about what this means for you in terms of your pro career. What are your goals for this weekend in terms of pro points and being on the pro tour for multiple events?
Our goal as a team was to top 8, of course, in order to get the invite to the Pro Tour. But especially for me, it's more important that because I will get to 15 points, and then only with my participation in the Pro Tour I will get to 18. And now with the change the Pro Point levels, I will be silver. So I have to choose between Madrid and Sydney, probably Sydney, and then Hawaii next year. So that would be ideal. For me, that would be the best thing to top 8 again.
So making the top 8 for you represents 3 entire Pro Tours.
Exactly. Yeah. 3 Pro Tours. Yes. That's 3 Pro Tours. Exactly.
That's a lot. A lot on the line here for you and for Team Greece. Who home is watching for you guys this year? Who's cheering you guys on?
All the Greek players, of course. they want to see us do what we couldn't do last year, and I'm trying to get to our team to this spirit that we're here to take it back, and so far I'm succeeding it. Last year they just said okay, let's make day 2 and money finish, but I said no, we will go to the end, and I was supporting them all the time, and we did it. And this year I do the same, and so far so good. I hope I will be a bit luckier because my deck choice in Constructed is, I thought it was pretty good. I'm playing Abzan Rally with blue, and I sit at seat A in order to avoid Espers, because we thought that Esper would be at the mid, and out of 5 constructed rounds I played against 4 Espers. And that's the worst matchup. I managed to win one now, but only because I got my opponent mana screw. Otherwise it's impossible to win. But I hope if I face another Esper, I still mulligan him to 5 or 4 and win. Otherwise it's impossible.
All right, well, they've got 1 win under their belt here in the second round of pool play. 2 more rounds to go. Bill Chronopoulos and Team Greece, good luck here at the World Magic Cup.
Yeah, great job by Team Greece. They have a win. They are a 3rd seed, so the second win might not be enough for them. Brian David Marshall, we're actually going to see, it's almost like we plan these things, we're going to see Greece in feature match action this round. We heard Bill Chronopoulos there talking about his deck. He's playing 4-color rally. Where is he going to be sitting? How does it work out?
He is actually facing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man this round. He has chosen the form of his destroyer. He said, I don't want to face Esper Dragons. Well, he's facing Esper Dragons.
Okay, and a fairly competent pilot for Esper Dragons as well. We've got Andrea Mengucci.
Yeah, Team Italy. The other matchup is a Tarka Red versus a Tarka Red, and a really kind of unexpected matchup in the B seed here. We have Teamer versus Black-White Warriors from the Greek team.
So that's William Pitsy with the Megamorph, Team of Megamorph, and Antonis Fissas for the Greeks. He's back again. I mean, we keep talking about Bill Chronopoulos, we just saw him there, but Antonis Fissas has been part of the Greek team before now.
As is Papadopoulos.
Right, both who's the coach?
They were in 2012 playing in Indianapolis.
Okay, so I want to pose a theory to you. I want to use Denmark and Guatemala as our case study.
Sure.
Denmark, reigning champions. They're at 1-0 in the top 16. They're a number 3 seed. They expect to win any given round because we are Denmark. We've got Pro Tour champion. We've got reigning World Magic Cup champion. We've got 2 people who we've explained to that I'm a Pro Tour champion and I'm a World Magic Cup champion. So everything feels kind of normal. Normal service just continuing on. Then I'm Guatemala, who, would be thinking that Saturday and certainly Sunday would be the days to sightsee around Barcelona for the most part, unless they had a prevailing wind behind them. They've made it into day 2, they've made it into the top 16, and then we've just watched them have this unbelievably intense, dramatic loss to Belarus. So, to what extent does that, for a team like Guatemala, also feel like normal service is being resumed and actually, right, this is as high as we get?
I think when you get the teams without as much Pro Tour experience playing at this level, I think there's more possibility of what people would refer to as tilt. right? You know, you're not able to stay maybe as even. That's going to be the test for these guys. But again, we've talked about Guatemala having some of that experience from their captain, where he's been at that Pro Tour and been playing for top 8. And so maybe, you know, he can lend that experience to his team to sort of keep them calm, keep them focused, and get them back on track.
Well, Ian, I know you're excited to see this next matchup in action. Greece are going to be going at it in our feature match area up against the Italians, Mengucci, Pizzi, Camiluzzi, and Bifero as the coach. Let's head down once again to the feature match area to the team. Here comes the middle round of pool play at the World Magic Cup 2015.